John Carter had learned how to go unnoticed. He slipped through the polished marble halls of Silvertech every night with his head down, pushing his battered mop bucket, nodding politely to the security guards who barely looked up from their phones. He was the janitor, a single dad clinging to a steady paycheck and health insurance for his 10-year-old daughter Emily. He never complained about the hours or the messes or the lonely shifts that ended when the sun was already rising. John knew more about this building than anyone. He knew which doors squeaked, which light flickered on the 12th floor, and how to navigate the maze of glass offices without ever being seen. What the company didn't know was that long before the Navy jumpsuit and mop bucket, John Carter had been a promising software engineer. Life and bills and a sudden tragedy had forced him to drop out of the career he loved to raise Emily alone. The only job that didn't mind his missing degree, his gaps in employment, and his desperate need for flexible hours was janitorial work. So he took it without a word of bitterness and did it well. One Wednesday night, long after the last suit had left, John was emptying the trash in the third-floor conference room when he heard tense voices echoing from the glass-walled tech hub down the hall. He paused, ears sharpening. Two young engineers, voices low but urgent, leaned over glowing monitors, arguing in panicked whispers. "It's not responding to the rollback. If the servers don't sync by midnight, we're going to lose everything for North America," one said. "I told you we should have done the patch test before pushing it live," the other snapped. John kept moving, quietly pushing his cart closer. He heard words like security breach, data corruption, $100 million loss. The problem was massive, and by their tone, nobody had a clue how to fix it before morning. John's heart thudded in his chest. A memory flickered. Long nights debugging at his old startup job, scribbled code on napkins beside Emily's baby bottles. He still remembered the system's old architecture. Even now, lines of code still danced through his mind when he closed his eyes. For a moment, he almost walked on, but something in his gut wouldn't let him. Emily's face floated up behind his eyes. Her bright grin when she showed him her report card, the promise he'd made her about a better future. At 2 a.m., with the building dead silent and cleaning finished, John stood alone in the main server room. His security badge got him inside. It never occurred to the higher-ups that a janitor might know more about their systems than their paid consultants. He sat at a terminal, wiping sweat from his forehead. His old skills clicked into place like he'd never left. His fingers flew across the keys, tracking the glitch through layers of code. The server fans hummed around him. He spotted the vulnerability, a back door, left unsecured, buried deep, where only someone who knew the original framework would think to look. His hands trembled as he typed the fix, line by line, patching the breach, locking it down, restoring the sync. Finally, the red error screens flickered to green. A quiet ping told him the system was stable again. $100 million saved in the dead of night by a man everyone overlooked, sweeping floors and scrubbing glass. John logged out, shut down the monitor, and picked up his mop again. When the early crew arrived, they'd never guess what happened. But the security cameras had seen him, and the next day, the CEO would watch the footage that changed everything for John and Emily forever. The next morning, the CEO of Silvertech, Charles Whitaker, sat in his corner office, staring at the grainy security footage on his massive screen. He'd been up all night after the head of IT burst into his home with a frantic explanation. The multi-million-dollar crash that could have destroyed their North American operations had been fixed overnight by a janitor. Charles leaned closer, watching the footage again. There was John Carter, pushing his mop bucket down the hallway like always, then quietly slipping into the server room. The cameras inside showed the rest. John, sitting at the terminal like he owned the place, his hands moving across the keyboard with calm confidence. 30 minutes later, the entire system was back online. Charles rewound the moment 3 times. There was no doubt this man, this invisible man, had just saved the company from ruin. By noon, John was back on his routine, head down, polishing the shiny lobby floor near the elevators. He didn't notice the whispers yet, didn't see the cluster of executives peeking through glass walls. He had no idea his life was about to change. A soft tap on his shoulder made him pause. He turned to find a young assistant looking flustered. "Mr. Carter, Mr. Whitaker wants to see you. Now." John's heart dropped. Had he crossed a line? Broken rules? He washed his hands in the janitor's closet sink, wiped them on a rag, and took the elevator up to the top floor. The ride felt endless. Charles Whitaker stood when John stepped in. For a moment neither man spoke. Then the CEO crossed the room and held out his hand. "You saved this company last night, Mr. Carter. Did you think we wouldn't notice?" John swallowed. "I didn't do it for notice, sir. I just knew how to fix it." Charles laughed, almost in disbelief. "You knew how to fix it better than my entire IT team combined. Why didn't you ever tell anyone you knew systems at that level?" John looked at the floor, embarrassed. "Didn't think it mattered. I just needed a job for my daughter." Charles nodded slowly. Then he did something that stunned John even more. He pulled out a chair. "Sit down. I want to make you an offer." Over the next hour, the janitor became an overnight legend. Charles offered him a position on the cybersecurity team with full pay and benefits, including a college scholarship for Emily when she was older. He promised him training to brush up on the latest tech. More than that, he promised respect, something John hadn't felt in years. When John left the office, his old mop bucket sat waiting by the elevator, but he didn't pick it up. Word spread like wildfire through Silvertech about the quiet single dad who'd done what no one else could. Engineers and interns nodded to him now, shaking his hand, offering thanks. Later that night, when John sat at the tiny kitchen table with Emily, he told her everything. She squealed and hugged him tight, spilling her glass of milk. "Does this mean you don't have to be the janitor anymore, Daddy?" she asked, eyes shining. He smiled, brushing a crumb from her cheek. "No, sweetheart, I'll still clean up messes, just bigger ones now." And for the first time in years, John Carter knew the promise he'd made to her, that he'd find a way to give her the life she deserved, was finally coming true.